Hello, friends and neighbors, and my wonderful family. I just wanted to say hi. And um, I have known I would be a writer since fourth grade. So I was about 10 when I realized, you know, well, I liked reading a lot, and for quite a few years before that. And then for some reason, I wrote something on a Halloween poster that a group of us put out in the hallway. And a teacher stopped our class, knocked on the door, and interrupted our class and said, "Who wrote the poem on this poster out in the hallway?" And she had asked the teacher if she could do this, probably ahead of time, but at least she interrupted the class and did this. And so, I was sort of embarrassed, and there was maybe 3 or 4 of us that had worked on the poster, but I had mostly written the poem on it, and this was near Halloween. So I kind of shyly put my hand up, and I think I was turning beet red by that time, as all the eyes in the class sort of were looking around to see who it was. And then the teacher said something very positive, and although I don't remember her name, because like I said, she wasn't even my teacher. She was a teacher down the hall in a different class. It definitely was a wonderful thing for her to do. She said, "This poem shows talent. You should stick to it," or something along those lines. You have a lot of promise, something like that. And so that sort of turned my focus onto the possibility that I could be a writer. Now I have dozens of notebooks filled with hundreds of poems. I published some here and there, but never really published a book. I've shared them with close friends. I've learned to read them to my closest friends. I've never, been one for a poetry slam. I don't need to put my angst on my sleeve. However, I've written a lot of poetry about my observing people, my observing nature, and I was always very careful not to be too closely tied into pop culture, which has stood me very well in this past year and a few years previous to that, as I, haven't watched television for years and years and years. I realized it was infecting my brain negatively, and I was able to pursue truths contrary to, what the Marxist mainstream media tends to shove down everyone's throats, with their horrid propaganda. So it was easy for me to wake up when God started saying, "The Great Awakening is coming, the Great Awakening, prepare for the Great Awakening." And I thought that meant for this country. Little did I know the whole world was waking up, and that this Great Awakening was a great movement of God. So anyway, I decided, since I have been putting videos out on this YouTube channel, Hiking Druid, that I would read one that I wrote just a few days ago on the 31st of January, 2021. And I think I'll just make one video for each poem. I have some poems from over the last 15-20 years that I've worked on and gotten to a point where, you know, if I put a book together, I could with confidence put those into a book. So I'll probably start reading those you know, in the future, and then, but this one is called A Strengthening Affiliation, and it's about meeting people that you didn't even know existed. And through this whole, well, you know, over the 2020 with the false fear flags that were thrown out of the regurgitating drama queen media, a lot of people started staying at home. I was lucky enough to leave my job and become free and work on my business from home, which also gave me, as I'm working, I can also eavesdrop to some of the other seekers of truth that are out there. And slowly through, you know, YouTube and all the other video outlets like BitChute, MeWe, and all these places where, you know, a lot of the censorship from Facebook and YouTube has actually caused us to meet each other better than we would have before. God always turns what the little liar intends for our harm into golden nuggets if we just pay attention to them and seek them out. And anyway, this is called A Strengthening Affiliation. It was a struggle at times, retaining my mind, being my being, in a deepening sleep people world. For it is an affront to follow thoughtlessly when born a child of highest sovereignty. When most screamed loud, submitting to the crowd, I, blocking such raw, undisciplined emotion, sat serenely adrift upon their fear-stoked ocean. Having perceived that God was misbelieved, I endeavored his closeness, but severed their remoteness. A lone mountain, yet never too lonely, as I learned and thought and grew and taught, surrounded by trees and streams and dreams, God's deep love. Within is above, right is might, truth is freedom. So light conquers night. Learning of these things, deepening, ripening, comprehending to fullness. Imagine this lone wolf's surprise, his giddy surprise, that is. Imagine this lone wolf's giddy surprise in a year meant for fear, dripping like raw honey, with cheating and lies. I had to push the lone moniker back. In truth-seeking patriots, I had discovered my pack. A.D. Boyington. That's the pen name I write under. A.D. Boyington. Have for years. So, this is my first attempt at really casting my poetry into a public space of potential massive massive audience potential. Let's put it that way. So hopefully this touches somebody in a great way, in an uplifting way, in the loving way that it was intended to be. And, you can see as they say, write about what you know. So, although I don't like to put emotions on my sleeve, I do like to put observations to the page. So I hope you folks enjoy this with a capital J. Enjoy. And I will read some more. I actually have written over the last 3 or 4 weeks more poems than I wrote in a year. So there is a great energy expanding as our awareness is expanding, and as I'm meeting these wonderful people like Charlie Freak and Charlie Ward. I'm just Charlie, These people, they don't want us to idolize them. We don't need to replace these false idols of Hollywood and rock stars and all these fallen ones. At least a lot of them are pretty disgusting. And it's because we made little gods out of them for too long. And so these up-and-coming stars, Siobhan, O'Brien, that we're all being careful to say all the honor goes to God. That's why Charlie Ward says, I'm not the Messiah, I'm just Charlie. Because a lot of people expect them to know everything, and they don't know everything. And I'm glad that they are quick to say so. It's an amazing time. Yeah, I'm finding these fellow seekers of truth and people who are trying to understand what's going on. There is no Q movement. This is such a lie. Q was just a post. It was just a post. Go watch Santa Surfing. She talks about that quite a bit, and more recently. It's just people. It's a desperate maneuver by people who are losing their power, and they know it. And they always thought we were stupid, and they were wrong. So the regular folks have common sense and clarity of vision that these blood-sucking elitists that have ruled our planet for centuries and centuries and generations upon generations, and looked at us as cattle. They can't understand. They thought they had dumbed us all down, but a lot of us had stepped away from their conditioning, their programming. And I've gotten into that before. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed a strengthening affiliation as much as I enjoyed the discovery that caused me to write that. That I don't have to be a lone wolf. That I'm not just a mountain surrounded by a forest. That there are so many others out there. God is so good. He's pointed us towards each other when we wouldn't have discovered each other before, using the very medium that they thought would destroy us all, that the evil ones were going to use to destroy us and make us live in fear. Instead, we're finding each other and loving on each other and living in strength and discovering who God really wants us to be. Loving, teaching, learning, serene, sovereign, mankind. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. All right, until next time, remember, help one another, be patient with one another, love each other, give great thanks to God. Jesus is loving to please us, and we should honor him. You have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Love to you.